We are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on-air host and author, Sara DiVello, and I am so excited to welcome tonight New York Times best-selling author Chris Reich, here to give us the inside scoop on his brand new book out tomorrow, Matterhorn. Chris, welcome to Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Tell us about this book.
Sara, thank you for having me. It's great to be here, and what a fun day. It's always, when your book comes out, it's a special day in the year because it only happens once a year or sometimes even longer. So tonight we're talking about my latest novel, thriller, Matterhorn, set, of course, in the country of my ancestors, Switzerland. I grew up there, so I knew it very well. So Matterhorn is a story of, it's kind of a story of revenge and betrayal. The story of a retired or hiding CIA agent, Mac Dekker, Mackenzie Dekker, who, for reasons that you will discover, is hiding at the starting of the book in a small alpine town called Zinal at the head of a valley, hidden away from the world. For 8 years, he's been hiding. But why? Book opens up with an exciting scene on the Matterhorn. Of course, that's why the title is there. Where there is betrayal and death that lures Mac out of retirement, where he has to use his own personal, well-developed set of skills developed over a long career in the U.S. Marine Corps and the CIA to track down and find the people who killed his son and, as I said, brought him out of retirement to risk everything he's tried so hard to save.
Ooh, well, so much to talk about here, and I can't wait to get into every delicious detail. I just want to quickly say hello to everyone because we are broadcasting live to 6 different destinations across Facebook and YouTube. So, hey, mystery and thriller loving friends, no matter where you're watching from, you're in the right place. This is the right time. It is Mystery Monday, because Mondays can be murder. We're going to make them a little less painful and get your week off to a killer start. So, if you've been here before, you know the drill. And if you're new, welcome, friends. We're so happy to have you. Here's the drill. Every Monday, I give you my handpicked featured authors, and you get to ask them anything. So ask Chris about his process, about his childhood in Switzerland, about the Matterhorn, about the CIA, his character, Mac. We have a lot to chat about, and you can just get those questions going in the comments. Let's jump right in. Renee joining us from Southeast Florida, saying, hi, Sara and Chris. Hi, Renee. She's saying Switzerland is gorgeous. Robin joining us from Facebook saying, hi, Sara and Chris from lovely Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Sounding very French in Idaho there, Robin. I love it. Sharon joining us from YouTube saying, hi, Sara and Christopher. Hi, Sharon Bishop. So good to see your name pop up. Renee saying, I love the other books that you have written. I can't wait to get to Matterhorn. Well, fortunately, Renee, you won't have to wait long because Matterhorn drops tomorrow. She's saying, oh, happy early pub day. Thank you, Renee. Margaret joining us from Portland, Oregon, saying, grew up in Switzerland. Do you speak French and or German?
I speak both. I speak French pretty much like English. Not that I learned it growing up there, but I worked in the Swiss watch industry for about 6 years, running a Swiss watch company, and all my employees were French speakers. So it was, I had to learn French pretty darn quick to run the place.
Very cool to know that you worked in the Swiss watch industry. Renee wants to know, Chris, where are you currently living? Are you joining us from Switzerland?
No, I was just there a couple weeks ago on my honeymoon, my second honeymoon actually, and but I live in Newport Beach, California.
So not putting those French and German skills to use today.
That's in fact when I was just over in Europe a few weeks ago. Nothing makes me feel better when I can speak a different language. Shakespeare always said, a person has as many souls as languages he speaks. So when you're getting over there, it's like, wow, you're a different person when you speak French, or you're kind of more exact when you speak German. So it was one of them. I'm really happy that was able to learn those languages, because it really expands your worldview and just your interior view too of who you are as a person.
Ooh, well then, according to Shakespeare, I have 2.5 souls.
That's good.
Margaret saying, have you been on the Disney ride? How does it compare? Any marketing opportunities there? Sorry, I'm a SoCal gal, so it comes to mind first. Okay, tell us about what is she talking about, Chris?
Well, of course, I also grew up primarily in Southern California, and I'm old enough. So the first time I went on the Matterhorn at Disneyland, I had that e-ticket, which is, what you needed to get on the best of rides. You have the Jungle Cruise and the Matterhorn. Those are the two ones that demanded the e-ticket. But of course, this book is not at all about Disneyland. It's about the most iconic, well-recognized mountain peak in the world, the Matterhorn, that looms above the valley in Zermatt, Switzerland. One that was first climbed in 1865 by the English climber Edward Whymper. He made it up to the top with 7. On the way down, 4 of them died. Ever since then, even though it's not the hardest mountain to climb, every year, between 10, 20, 30 people die climbing this mountain. So it is still deadly. I can tell you, when you go to the Matterhorn and touch it, it has a presence. It has a spirit. It is a massive rock, 4,000 feet high, starting at 10,000 feet, going to 15,000 feet of granite. And you feel it's kind of almost, I don't want to say evil, but it has a presence.
What kind of presence would you say it is?
It's a looming presence. I mean, when I went up there, it scared me because I was trying to climb it. And you could just feel it's like this thing, this takes people's lives, okay? Do not underestimate this. Other people look at it and say, oh, it's just a beautiful rock. But I think I'll just say this, it has a historic presence. It makes you feel like it's there a lot more than other mountains do.
Wow. So I will admit that I did not know what the Matterhorn is. So I had to Google that as I was reading, as I am not a mountain climber, and did not know what that was. Although I do like to climb the Red Rocks in Arizona and out west, and I have felt that those Red Rocks do have a presence, a pulse. And so I can now only imagine that the Matterhorn that kills 10 to 30 climbers a year, I have just learned in the past 30 seconds that it must have quite a presence as well. Wow. Okay. Renee wants to know, did you ski all the mountains? And if so, do you still?
Yes, I'm a skier. I've skied in Zermatt a lot, and in Arosa, and then of course in California. So, my knees are a little bit shaky these days, but we were just up there a couple of weeks ago. The snow was great, and it is the ski there it truly is a ski paradise. First of all, Zermatt is the most deluxe ski resort. There's only gondolas. There's no T-bars. There's no chairlifts. You're in a well-protected, beautiful gondola to take you up and down. The runs are so long. It is just, it's paradise. Loved it.
Wow. R. Lynn joining us from YouTube saying, hi, Sarah and Christopher from Rochester, New York. Hi, Arlene. Thank you so much for joining us. Robin saying Newport Beach is quite a difference from Switzerland. Yeah, that is a big difference culturally and weather-wise and language-wise and culturally all the ways. Christopher, tell us about that.
Well, it's funny. I grew up about half the time in America, half the time in Switzerland. But then when I started my professional career, I was working in Switzerland. And after about 7 years there, the weather there is a little bit challenging, especially if you live in the cities, Zurich or Geneva. They have this condition where the fog rolls in early October and doesn't really roll out until the end of April. So my goodness, you crave sunshine. And, I had to come back sooner or later to America and to California to get some sunshine because it just makes you feel better. So a big difference culturally, certainly meteorologically, but I love America. Happy to be back here. Love visiting Europe. Love living in California.
Oh my goodness. So while you were having that career, Margaret's saying running a Swiss watch company. Wow. Have you ever dropped a watch detail in a novel that nobody else would know? Ooh.
That's really funny. I think I can't remember exactly what watch I may have mentioned, but I do once in a while mention a watch or a shoe or a clothing brand that might give some kind of clue to a person's character. So, yeah, so I was a Swiss banker first. My first novel, Numbered Account, that came out in 1998, was based upon my experiences working for the Union Bank of Switzerland. And from there, I transitioned from there to the watch industry. I say, I had the holy trinity in Switzerland: watches, banks. The only thing I missed was chocolate. So, but instead, I decided to start writing books, and so that's where I am now.
I think you should provide Swiss chocolate to go with the Matterhorn. I think we should have some branded chocolate here. Renee's laughing with us. I love it. Okay, Chris, let's talk about so your book Matterhorn is your main character, your protagonist Mac is a Marine turned CIA agent. And interestingly, last week we hosted real life Marine turned CIA agent Adam Sykes. So we went from the real life to the fictional. Tell us about your research into the process of creating Mac.
Well, one of the great things about being a writer and having some success is that a lot of people will talk to you. If you ask them politely, they will open doors and allow you into kind of the inner sanctum. And from my first book on, I've spent a lot of time developing contacts, making friends in the American intelligence industry or community, excuse me. And so I draw upon those contacts whenever I write my books. This is not the first book I've written with a CIA agent involved, but it's really one of the great pleasures and honors where you get to meet with these people who truly do dedicate themselves to America's well-being without being ever honored or recognized, but learning the ins and outs of their profession. And I try to work that into these books. Now, in this book, Mac is a retired CIA operative. He worked at the end of his career. He was working in the Middle East, in Israel, in Syria. He drew upon his experiences as a sniper, and they used people like Mac they insert them into, let's say, conflict areas, in this case, Syria, and they use people like him to eliminate, liquidate, kill high-value targets, HVAs. Okay, so that was his last job, which is a very strange job because the contrast from work and not working is so extreme. One day you're sitting in Tel Aviv, you're having a nice meal looking over the Mediterranean, sparkling water, fresh fish. Next morning, you take a van out to a air base in the Israeli Negev desert. You board a helicopter, you fly in 2 hours into Syria. All of a sudden, you are in a war zone, your life is at risk, and you are tasked with eliminating one of the enemy. And so no matter how many times you do take a life, and make no mistake, these people are taking lives, and they know that, it starts to wear on you. So I don't think we realize, I don't want to call it PTSD, but when you do this job repetitively, it takes a toll, and we should be aware of that.
Absolutely. And my OG mavens, my who've been with me for all 4 years will remember that we had real life sniper turned writer. We had a real life sniper turned writer on twice, and he shared that he does have PTSD and uses meditation and mindfulness techniques to try to overcome that. Having lost his best friend and partner in crime in Syria, and then coming back and actually designing the sniper course for the Navy SEALs. He's the one who creates sniper school, which we also learned was a thing. And we talked a lot about the PTSD that they must deal with, because when you are in hypervigilance mode and when your life is literally on the line and you could die, that does take a toll on the psyche. So it's important, I think, we address that. You're not a spoiler. The book opens with Mac's son up on the Matterhorn, up on the mountain, meeting with a Russian intelligence officer who is spying for the US. Did you hear of any real life inter-spy relationships or double agents in your research, Chris?
I did not. I don't really know about that, but why not? Why not? And these people do cross paths, and a lot of them are young and attractive, and of course, kind of at the top of their game. And I have to believe that America has the winning proposition in terms of how you want to live your life and how we want the world to be governed. So I think that, especially these days, my goodness, that with what's going on, a smart, intelligent Russian operative might say, maybe I want to kind of throw in my chips to the American side. So there you go.
Although, as page 129 says, only an idiot would want Mac Dekker coming after him. So Mac is not a man to be trifled with.
He's definitely not to be trifled with. He has a lot of experience. Can you just imagine spending your life, you're trained in the Marine Corps, sniper school, long-range reconnaissance, you transition to the Central Intelligence Agency, Special Activities Division. You're seeing a lot of stuff. You're able to perform a lot of skills, do a lot of things that other people have no idea. And with it, not just perform them, but without hesitation and with the certainty that you will succeed.
Very true. Very true. Chris, let's take a peek at some of the praise that the book has earned. Let's look at first from Library Journal. I'm going to pop this up so we can all read it together. Saying that this book would make a great movie, and fans of the Bond tales and special ops action novels should add this to their reading list. Congratulations on that bit of praise from the Library Journal. And they are not the only ones. Raving Book List weighing in with this praise, saying another winner. Oops, let me pop it up. Another winner from a consistently satisfying writer. Chris, what would you say that it takes to be a career writer, to be a lifelong writer, and to not let that quality, dwindle, but to continue putting out consistently satisfying books, as Book List says?
That's a really tough question. I have a funny answer, which is the first thing is what Mark Twain said: to be a writer, apply seat of pants to back of chair. And you got to sit around for a long time because, writing a book takes a lot of hours, and you have to be alone a lot of hours. Okay. And you don't have your phone, no internet. You got to concentrate. You got to get the flow going. But I think that you have to have, a lot of interest in the world. For me, of course, I love current events. I love politics. I like foreign relations. So, I went to the Georgetown School of Foreign Service. It's in my blood, and I grew up all over the world. That's what turns me on, and I try to put that into my books. So, to offer advice to be a writer, it's hard. You have to be good with being by yourself for a long time, and you have to be able to kind of hear your words. I always say this. It's like everyone thinks they could play a musical instrument, right? You give someone a saxophone, they take a few lessons, like, God, I sound like John Coltrane or something like that. But to be a professional writer, you have to have a good ear. So when you hear yourself playing, you have to say, oh, that's good or that's bad. But you have to be able to discern what's kind of quality. So, it takes a lot of skills, I think, to do this, and mostly just perseverance.
And actually, when I was writing my book, I read it out loud so that I could hear it, because some people read with audiobooks. Some people are listening, and the pace and the cadence of your words and of the length of your words and the length of your paragraphs matters, especially not just to those who are reading, but to those who are listening. And so I read my book 4 ways. I read it on the screen, on the paper, on Kindle, and I read it out loud to myself so that I could literally take in the story the way that anyone might be consuming the story.
Sarah, that's the best advice ever, because when you hear it out loud, you really hear it. You know what I mean? Yes. It's like you can avoid it. You can't. It's like if it's bad, it's going to sound bad. And if it's good, it's going to sound pretty good. So I think that's absolutely fantastic advice. Basically, I think have someone else read it to you.
Yes, in the different voice, exactly.
But don't read it in an English accent, because anything sounds good with an English accent. If Hugh Grant's reading, it's like, God damn, that sounds really good.
Exactly. And CC to Australian accents, which are my other favorite accent, and French accents, not too shabby either. We're going to need you to do the rest of the interview with a French accent, Chris. You can do it.
That's too fun.
And speaking of Australia, we have an Aussie in the audience, Melissa Watson, joining us from Australia, saying lots of sunshine in Sydney, Chris. Come here if the fog and the weather in Switzerland gets you down.
Like this, my younger daughter, Katya, was just in Australia for the last 3 months, and she did not want to come back. She said, I've never seen so many fit, attractive people. She was on the Gold Coast, and she just loves that country, loves the spirit, loves everything about it. And that's going to be an expensive plane flight to go over and visit her.
I lived in Australia myself and also did not want to come back to the US. I love Australia. Margaret saying clues in a language so few can read. Well played. Absolutely. Languages are so matter so much. Robin saying, I can imagine the different feelings between climbing in Switzerland and Arizona. I've never been to Switzerland. I don't know. I need to get over there. Renee saying she has skied in Switzerland too. Okay, we have a lot of skiers and climbers in this. I love this. Melissa saying hello to you, Melissa. Thank you so much for joining us. Margaret saying, I believe it is about the spirit of the mountain. Nan Shepard's The Living Mountain, about the Cairngorms, was a spiritual journey. Yeah, mountains have energy, right? Nature has energy. And apparently, Chris saying the Matterhorn is not evil, but does take some significant lives. Oh, thanks for all the hearts up in Facebook, you guys. They're loving us, Chris. They're giving us lots of love. Thank you, guys. Robin saying polite interest is a great method to create contacts. Speaking of your CIA and Marine agents contacts, absolutely. Allison saying, I cannot wait to watch this replay. Yes, so many of us are going to watch the replay. Not everyone is here on live, and that's great. We love our replay watchers. Allison, our fellow author, great to have you in the house, in the audience. She says, this book sounds incredible. Well, what a perfect note to mention. The book's not even out yet. Chris is coming on tonight to give us the exclusive inside scoop on Matterhorn and to take all of your most burning questions. So y'all, here is the link to pre-order, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Here is that link. Get your little fingers clicking. And the good folks at our favorite woman-owned independent bookstore, Murder by the Book, will ship the book to you tomorrow morning. So Facebook or YouTube, start clicking and get your mitts on Matterhorn and the world of Mac Dekker. Melissa saying, oh, that's fabulous to hear. Go visit your daughter. You will love it. The Gold Coast in Queensland is amazing. I lived in Queensland. It is amazing. Sharon saying she loved Australia too. It's so good. Okay, Chris, we're going to need you to censor your next book in Australia. Margaret saying, donnez-nous un accent. Chris, you'd say that better than me. You take it.
Donnez-nous un accent, s'il vous plaît. Bonsoir tout le monde. Je m'appelle Christopher Reich, je suis écrivain. Je suis là avec vous. Alors, je veux tout simplement dire merci pour être là. Et bon, j'espère bien que vous toutes lisez mon nouvel livre, Matterhorn.
Ooh, Chris dazzling our inner ears with his speaking en français. En française. We weren't expecting that, but we love it. Melissa's saying yay for the Australian accent. We're going to need to hear that next, Chris.
I can't do that one. Maybe my other Chris Hemsworth. I wish he was here. He could do it for you.
Maybe he could play a role in the movie adaptation. I obviously love it. Renee wondering which one did I like best? Australia? Do you mean, Renee? Let me know which one. I'm sorry, I lost the train of thought on that one. Chris, tell us if someone submitted this question in advance. Pam, who will be watching the replay later, she wants to know, do you have a favorite scene in the book? No spoilers.
No, without a doubt, I do. That's a great question. Of course, the book is called Matterhorn. And so, the Matterhorn is one of the most famous and most frequently climbed mountains in the world. Okay, the Matterhorn is all about climbing. And when you or I climb, it will take us about 10 hours to go up and back down. But these days, these kind of elite alpinists set records running up and down this mountain, which is basically vertical, but there's a lot of little places for your hands and feet, up and down in about 90 minutes or less. One mistake, one falsely planted foot, and you will fall 4,000 feet to your death. So it is, I mean, one of the most scenic, perilous mountains in the world. And the last act of my book does actually take place there on the Matterhorn. So that was without doubt my favorite part. And I hope when you read the book that your palms will be moist and sweating, and you will feel the wind whipping your hair, and you will look down and say, oh my gosh, one false step and there I go.
That is intense. That is intense. Renee wants to know, are you a climber? Sounds like he is.
I am a climber. I spend a lot of time in the mountains in Zermatt, and I wanted to get up to the top of the mountain last year, the Matterhorn. I had a little bit of a family tragedy that prevented me from being over in Europe, but I am going up this summer. So, we can come back and do this in September, and I'll put a picture of me or a video waving a little flag from the top of the Matterhorn.
What kind of flag?
I guess
Matterhorn flag.
American Origin. From my publisher, I'll just take the book here.
Yeah, that's it. There's only one right answer, and the answer is your book.
The book.
Renee wants to know, when and where do you write?
I write. I do not like to write at my house. I have a dedicated office where I go. From my house, I'm walking around. I have the big 75-inch TV screen. ESPN is always a click away. So I go to a dedicated working space. I was trained as an investment banker, which means I work long hours. I try to get to work by 7:30, and I just sit at my desk pretty much all day long until I'm done. I try to write longhand in the morning. So I write longhand on a yellow legal pad, take a break, have some lunch, sometimes rest, then come back and type what I wrote, if hopefully I can read it, into the computer. So it's a day-long process.
Wow. So I just want to make sure I understand, at work by 7 a.m., this dedicated workspace, which is an office outside of your home, away from the temptations of ESPN, you write it longhand, take a break to have lunch, a nap. So you have a special napping bed?
I do like napping. So, if I could find a couch somewhere or zip home for a quick nap, that's worth it.
You go all the way home and take your nap, then all the way back to the office?
I live so close to my office. I can get back and forth within 1.5 minute song.
Oh my God! You should put a nap couch. A napping couch.
If it's stairway to heaven, I'm going to make it there and back easily. And naps are restorative, physically, mentally. You come back really ready to just take on the second part of the day.
Okay, so then you go home, you nap, then you go back to the office, and then you type up that which you wrote longhand into your computer.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. You know what's interesting, Chris? I don't know if you saw that article in the New York Times, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, where they imaged people's brains as they wrote longhand, and then they imaged them as they were typing, and it actually it lit up two different parts of the brain, which showed, interestingly, that people thought writing was writing, and that was the generative, creative part of your brain, but it was not. It was two totally different parts of your brain. So it's interesting to me that you are utilizing both of those segments of your brain.
I feel it's just, I'm sorry, I'm old school. It's when the pen touches the paper, kind of, that the magic happens, and you kind of let the world disappear, and you really immerse yourself in the storytelling. But I think more and more I am, the odd man out. I know Stephen King, who's probably our greatest living writer, will sit at a Boston Red Sox game with his laptop and write on the laptop while he's watching, balls and strikes. So good for him. I'm not so evolved. My brain is not made to that next level.
That's when he's not holding his giant catcher's mitt waiting for a ball to come into the place where he sits, which happens to get an inordinate amount of fly balls. So when he's not protecting his face with a mitt ready to catch his next foul ball, then he's apparently out there with the notebook. Oh my gosh. Okay, so some of us are still thinking about the French accent. Arlene is here, sorry, not French accent, your burst of Française saying, ooh, that French sounds beautiful. Robin saying what he said. Sharon saying, ooh, sexy. Melissa laughing with us. Margaret saying, start a hashtag, get your mitts on the Matterhorn. I think I did say that, Margaret. Okay, that's where we're going to get it trending. Hashtag, get your mitts on the Matterhorn. I love it. Okay, Margaret wants to know, what do you think is missing in the lives of the elite alpinisti?
Yeah, that they do this. These are a different breed of people than you or I. They live.
People that run up and down in 90 minutes.
These are the big climbers like Alex Honnold, who did the subject of the movie Free Solo, who climbed El Capitan without ropes. By the way, that's 3,700 feet, absolutely vertical. You or I could make it about 3 feet before we fell on our butt, and he did this whole thing. And interestingly, they did a brain scan of him for this movie and showed that whatever part of our brain registers fear and panic normally, it does not register with him. So when they did shoot that MRI, there were no lights lighting up when they showed him these images of things that should scare him. So these people, and most of them now die. Most of these guys don't live really till they're 40 or 50 because they make a mistake. My favorite climber, Uli Steck, the Swiss machine, who set the world record going up the Eiger, going up the north face of the Matterhorn. Finally, he perished trying to climb, do a double climb of Mount Everest and the peak next to him. He was just practicing a normal morning, out practicing, climbing up without ropes, and he fell 3,000 feet straight down. So they do it. They're crazy. What are we supposed to say? They don't get scared. They think they're invincible. So, okay.
Until they're not, and then they end up in a mushed pile at the bottom. Renee saying naps are so great. Margaret saying Sarah's face when you said you get to work at 7 or 7:30. I think it was something like this. It was a look of shock and horror and absolute certainty that will never be me. No, I am a night owl. I write into the wee hours. I love writing at night. Renee wants to know, do you feel that your words flow better when you write longhand?
Oh, absolutely. That's the only way I can do it. And it's funny, when these books, you often start a chapter with like a description, setting the scene of what's going on, and then you go to dialogue. So I can write dialogue just fine on my computer.
Ooh.
People talking back and forth. But then when you're really doing the writing, which is the hard part or the more fun part, I can only do it longhand.
That is very interesting because that part of your brain is like, I'm on, it's my turn. Here I go. I love it. Oh, Margaret is saying my face is best described as dismayed. Yeah, exactly. It was dismay and horror. It was shock and horror. It was like that level of Stephen King. Now the great Chris Harris is the greatest living writer of our time. It was a Stephen King level of horror at the 7 a.m. Margaret wants to know, do you reward yourself with a book haul after any particular milestone, like a launch? Yeah, what's your reward? Do you get books? Do you have a party? Do you have cake?
I book haul all the time. There's definitely, like one of these people, I have like 200 more books than I could read at any time. It's my passion. I love reading. So I'm always, the second I see something that looks good, I'm buying it. Buy it this way. I have a stack over in the corner already. So, but it's funny. I used to buy a set of golf clubs or a really nice new watch. I'm old enough. I've been doing this long enough now where just finishing the book is satisfaction enough. Aww. And I'm blessed. I have a nice life, and my kids are grown up. So I'm at this next new phase of my life. So I just like to do it really feels good to try to write a good book and go, man, that was good. I made that work, because when you write thrillers, there's a certain formula about them. And the secret is you have to follow the formula, but still make it seem new to the reader. So, each time I've done this, 15, 16 times. I've written a lot of screenplays, short stories. It doesn't ever get easier, ever. It just doesn't, sorry. Because there are always new stories and new characters. But I'm more familiar with it and I enjoy it more.
Renee wants to know, well, what kind of books do you read? And Margaret adding, besides thrillers, what is a genre? Oh, you know what? These are two separate questions. Renee, what type of books do you read, Chris?
No, those are both related. I read primarily nonfiction. I mean, I have a few fiction writers I love, but I've just read, The Wager by David Gran. I love historical fiction, so I basically just reread all of Hilary Mantel's books, Wolf Hall, Bring Up the Bodies. That she's the most amazing writer and most brilliant person who sadly just passed away. And I love Henry VIII, so I love all that history stuff. Love it. You too?
Me too. I love historical fiction, and I minored in European history because I was fascinated by Henry VIII and his 6 wives. And other both English and Italian history at that time. Margaret wants to know, besides thrillers, what is a genre you love that might surprise us? Okay, so historical fiction. I am very surprised.
I love historical fiction. I love nonfiction. I love art history. I am a kind of mini art historian. I love anything with medicine. I also was almost wanted to be a doctor, so I love books about learning about medicine, the history of medicine. What's going on now. I just read Walter Isaacson's great book about Jennifer Doudna, who invented the CRISPR gene technology. I mean, there's so much to learn. It's almost too much. I mean, I get so interested in so many things that I don't know where to go. But I really love nonfiction, and that's where I get the ideas for my books.
So I love nonfiction too, and I have 2 recommendations for you, Chris. So number 1, Remember, The Science of Memory and the Art of Forgetting by Lisa Genova, who is has a PhD in neuroscience from Harvard, and who wrote the fiction book Still Alice, as well as
that was a movie
that became the movie that won Julianne Moore the Oscar. This is the woman who wrote that, and she has written 6 fiction books all about neurodegenerative diseases. The latest of which is about bipolar disorder, which comes out next January. But she wrote her first nonfiction, which is Remember, The Science of Memory and the Art of Forgetting, which is about how memory works, which I think you would be, and how the brain works, which is fascinating. And then the other nonfiction book that I'm reading right now for your art interest is called The Art of Seeing by Bianca Bosker, who I just had coffee with yesterday. And it is about how art, what is art, and how a Philistine normie like the rest of us can learn to appreciate art, and how we can learn to really see art. And she is hysterically funny as she undertakes the world of art and becomes a guard. She goes undercover as a guard at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and she works as an assistant to the snobbiest gallery she can find in Soho. And then she becomes a participant in art and lets a naked stranger sit on her face because that's his art. And then she gets walled into a wall because that's art. And it is so fascinating. It's so interesting. So check that out.
That sounds great.
It's so good. Sharon saying, I'm a total night owl. Now you know how to, I need to learn how to write novels. See, Sharon, I knew I liked you. We're night owls. Exactly. Margaret wants to say, what pairs well with thrillers?
That's a good question. I mean, I think you go the opposite. I mean, when I'm reading a thriller, and I can give you, I just read a great book called The Spy Coast by Tess Gerritsen.
I interviewed her. She came on. She was on Maven's in October, the day before the book came out.
That's a great book. I mean, I'm really a snob, and I'll just say it right now. It's hard for me to really find a thriller that I love. That I said, I don't know if I could do it that well. That book, The Spy Coast by Tess Gerritsen, highly recommended. Just so fun. It was one of those books where all you want to do is get back to read that book. And that's so rare. So, but what pairs? Well, I think, you go, if I have a thriller, then I want to be reading either The New Yorker or something that's completely different to learn about something, nonfiction, whatever, you guys like. But So you have your fiction and you have your nonfiction. Always good to have both.
So my OG mavens know Tessa Richardson has been on 3 times for her last 3 books, most recently Spy Coast, which, Chris, you will appreciate. Tess is a doctor, an MD, and moved from Boston to Maine to pursue her, to write her books there, and noticed that an awful lot of people in her tiny little Maine small town worked for the government, but couldn't say more. And she realized they were all ex-CIA, including the chicken farmer next door. And that, of course, became her character. And that book is so fun and so fabulous. I loved that book. Okay. Margaret saying, I'm sorry. Did he just say historical fiction? Heart on fire. Right, Margaret? Yep. Margaret's my fellow histfic fan. Renee wants to know, oh my God. Okay. This is a very specific question. And I dig that. Do you keep your books in piles or on bookshelves?
Well, I keep them in piles until I read them and then put them on the bookshelves. But I mean, I have like 30 books next to my bed right now. So yeah, but I have to get one at a time. I keep buying them. I don't know why.
I love that. Sharon saying, if you like historical fiction, you should check out Broadway Butterfly. He should check out Broadway Butterfly. Thank you, Sharon. Yeah. Chris,
your book, Sarah?
That's my book. Yes. I read your book. Now you've got to read my book.
I will. Promise.
Yay. Renee saying they both sound so fascinating. Robin wants me to do an event with Bianca Bosker, my new art friend. I just met her. I just met her. She's very lovely. Margaret saying he's shaking his head at that one. I love it. Renee says she loved it. Yay. We love Tess. Tess is a wonderful. Oh, hi, Jane Brannigan Kaufman. Thank you for joining the conversation, saying, yes, Spy Coast was such a great book. Margaret saying that's so funny. Yes, to Maine. Oh my goodness, everybody's loving it. Yay. Jane saying Sarah's book is fantastic. Oh, Jane, you're so sweet. Thank you. I'm going to Venmo you that $5 later for the compliment. Just kidding. Y'all, we are out of time. We're actually over time because we're just having so much fun. We can't stop chatting with Chris. And here once again is the link to pre-order. Okay, Chris, since you sprechen Sie Deutsch, and we've already heard you parler français. Things are getting crazy here.
You scared me.
I do scare you, and I'm going to scare you more. Okay, so let's hear you say pre-order Matterhorn on Deutsch.
Ja, meine Damen und Herren, hoffentlich können Sie sofort mein neues Buch, das heißt Matterhorn, so viel Pre-Order auf Amazon oder in einen Buchschriftsteller irgendwo. Dankeschön.
Oh my God. Okay, that sounded like we were being screamed at, which German and Russian just do. Now you got to soothe us with some French.
Yeah, no. This is like, I feel like I'm auditioning to be a translator at the United Nations. I'll just say in English, please, I think you'll like the book. It's really a full pedal to the metal thriller, set in Europe and Switzerland. It's international. It's romantic. There's a big love interest. And I know I loved writing it, so I hope you enjoy reading it.
So, Dankeschön, merci beaucoup. In all of the languages. Thank you so much for being here. Spasibo bolshoy in Russian. Thank you for being here, everybody. Spending your Mystery Monday with us. The link, once again, to pre-order is this. Get your mitts. # get your mitts on the Matterhorn. Thank you for spending your Mystery Monday with us. That is a wrap. I hope your week is off to a killer start. May the days and the pages fly by, and I will see you next Monday. Take very good care until then.